Hey guys, how's it going? Thought today we'd bake something. We're gonna do some applesauce bread. So I made this last week just for I was thinking to myself I needed something new to bake, and something that I knew I would probably have the stuff in it. And I thought to myself, you know what? We got applesauce. I wonder if there's something with applesauce we could do. So of course I jump on my favorite TV station, YouTube, and lo and behold, there's all kinds of applesauce recipes. I know you can use applesauce in brownies. I think it's to replace the oil, to kind of cut down calories, and it keeps it moist. But I actually found a applesauce bread recipe that I'm here to tell you is awesome. If you like apples and you like applesauce, and you like, it's almost like a banana bread style bread. And it's, like I said, it's good. I wouldn't change it for all the tea in China. So, full disclosure, I actually did this video once already and made the bread, and then realized after I put it in the oven and quit filming the first half, I stick it in the oven, I walk out of the kitchen, start talking to Chris for a little bit, and then I come in and I see the brown sugar that's supposed to go in it still sitting in the bowl on the counter. I completely forgot to put the brown sugar in. I didn't even mention it in the video. So we're starting over. But happy accident, even without the brown sugar, it still tastes pretty good. It's just not as sweet. And if you were a diabetic, maybe that would be this recipe would actually work for you without the brown sugar in it. It's right here. And like I said, I had a slice of it, and Chris tried it, and it actually turned out good. It's just not as sweet as the other. You taste more of the applesauce than all the other stuff that's going on inside this complex, not really complex, loaf of bread. So, that being said, also, before I forget, I know lately in my videos I've been kind of scatterbrained. I don't know if I've talked about it in my previous videos, but I'm having a horrible time with retention and memory. I spend most of my day walking around, kind of like, you know how you get that feeling when you walk into another room and you can't remember what you were going after? I'm starting to get like that all the time. Now, I have been going to the doctor for it, and I got 2 more doctor's appointments scheduled. They've narrowed it down to what they think to be a couple different things. So I go to the doctor, but oddly enough, I have to wait till the end of May for my first appointment and the beginning of June for my second appointment. So bear with me. Hence probably why I forgot the brown sugar, because I have been scatterbrained all day today. So that being said, and I promise I'm working on not saying so much. If you notice in the last video from last night with the broccoli patties, I didn't say it once. Got the handy dandy ingredients list and directions written down. This time, even though I have the ingredients and the directions, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to screw it up completely. All right. So the first thing we want to do on this, very first thing, turn your oven on 350 degrees. Let that bad boy start cycling. Warm it up. Because this recipe, even though it's got a few moving parts to it, is actually very simple. Does not take long at all to do. It doesn't require a stand mixer. It doesn't require a hand mixer. It requires a whisk and at minimum, a spatula. That's how easy this is. All right, so let me move you down so that way you can see what's going on here on the counter, and we can walk through the ingredients list. And I promise not to forget the brown sugar this time. All right, let me get the camera down here. Ooh. Oh, what do we have there? Is that a scale? It is. And if you don't have one of these, go get one. Oh, there goes the oven. It's ready to rock. Get one. This one, like I said, not even $20. You don't need a $500 scale unless you are working on a commercial level or you own a restaurant. If you're just doing the occasional baking, cooking, things that require measurements, this is a good way to go. Definitely recommend getting one of those. I will give you measurements in cups and grams both. That way, when you do buy your scale, you can hit this up. All right, so the second thing we're going to do before we talk about ingredients is we're going to prepare our pan. Now, you need a bread pan. This is a 4x9, 5x9. It's a standard bread pan at any rate. All right, so we want to coat your bread pan. This one, it says to be non-stick, but it's gotten older, although it's a good bread pan. I have no complaints. I've used it dozens of times. So we're going to spray this. If you don't have, you can use vegetable spray. You can use buttered vegetable spray. You can even use melted butter if you have the ability to melt butter. You can melt butter in the microwave. I'm kind of lazy like that. The next thing I'm going to do, I cut out a piece of parchment paper to put on the bottom. This kind of ensures that the bread really does not stick to the bottom. Although realistically, I don't think I've ever had anything stick in this particular pan. Now I've got a glass one that things stick to. So what I do is I put it in there, I press it down to get some of that spray on it, and then I flip it over. All right, that way I know the paper, I even know it shouldn't because it's parchment paper, doesn't stick to the bottom of the bread. It's like an added security. All right, so we got that done. We're going to set that aside. That's taken care of. It's an afterthought. All right, so the first thing we're going to work on is dry ingredients. Let me get my handy dandy notepad out here so I can tell you about them. All right, first thing on the list for dry ingredients is 2 cups, 260 grams of flour. It's all-purpose flour, just your standard flour you buy in the grocery store. So there are lots of things you can do differently with this bread. I got this recipe from Stephanie Jaworski on joyabaking.com or Joya Baking on YouTube. If you haven't checked her out, check her out. She's been on there like 10 years, and she's got just a bazillion different recipes. She bakes everything: breads, European-style cakes, cookies, regular cakes and cookies. If you need a recipe, and I haven't made a video on it yet, she's a good resource to have. Just awesome. But let's say you wanted to even swing up this flour a little bit. You could do 1.5 cups of regular all-purpose flour, and you could do 1/2 cup of wheat flour, which is what I think she does in her original recipe. So the next thing we need is 1 teaspoon of baking powder, which is right here. 1 teaspoon baking powder, which weighs 4 grams. We're going to put that in there. Said and done. Next thing we need is 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking soda. Put that in there. And then we need 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt, which, I actually put the salt in with the baking soda. I had it mixed together in the container. So that was also my 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is 1 gram. Then we need a teaspoon so the other teaspoons were 4 grams. Cinnamon is very light. If you use, because it calls for 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, but if you put 4 grams of cinnamon in this cup, it would be almost the entire cup. And man, this recipe would be cinnamon heavy. So cinnamon, even though it's 1 teaspoon, is only 1 gram. So keep that in mind. And if you ever find a recipe that you want to try, say it's in an old cookbook or you read it you get it online or whatever, and it doesn't have the grams, look the grams up. That way you're precise. I actually have a cup to gram thing on my phone. That it's an app that changes things. It'll do ounces to milliliters. It does liquids and solids both. That way I know I'm always fairly accurate when it comes to baking. And cooking, you can be a little more liberal with. And this, once you get comfortable with baking, you can change things up. Especially when it comes to cookies, I like to add a little more baking powder than baking soda. That way I get a fluffier cookie at times, unless I'm making a crispy cookie. All right, so the last thing we need in the dry ingredients, walnuts. Now, it doesn't have to be walnuts. She uses, I can't think of what they're called right now. It begins with a C, and it's something that I haven't heard of maybe a couple times in my life. But you can also use pecans, you can use almonds. You don't have to have any nuts at all. That's completely up to you. If you're going to use nuts, if you're going to follow this recipe and use walnuts, you want to roast them. Now, to roast any nut, you turn your oven on to 350 degrees, just like we have now. You'll get a small baking sheet or a small pan of some sort. You'll put parchment paper on it, put your nuts down on that, stick it in the oven. It takes about 5 minutes to to get a roast on most nuts, and you'll know when they're ready. You'll start to smell them. The minute you start to smell them, they're done. So we're going to add that in. Next thing we're going to do is give me just 1 second. I got to find a car key. I'm not sure what to do with it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to get the car key for Chris. She's on her way to pick up Abby. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we got all our dry ingredients in there. We're going to whisk it all together. Man, the last thing you want to do is not whisk this. And, well, it would be the last thing you want to do, but you want to whisk it so you don't get clumps of salt, baking powder, baking soda in your mix. 'Cause I'm telling you, I don't know if you've ever had it happen, but I have, where you didn't get it mixed quite good enough, and you go to take a bite of your bread or your cookie or whatever, and it tastes like salt or baking powder or baking soda, and that's just not the best taste in the entire world. Okay, so that's all we need for the dry mix. All right, we got it done, so we can set it aside. We can start working on the wet mix. Now, the wet mix is really very simple. I mean, it does have a few things to it, but it is very simple. All right, so for our wet mix, we need 1 egg, large, which I have right here. 1 egg, large. And let me show you something. It's 50 grams is what that egg should be. But I want to talk about eggs for 1 quick second. I don't know if you remember my last video, I was talking about how we use farm fresh eggs and how there can be a difference when you use farm fresh eggs. Well, I also have some store-bought eggs because we didn't make it out to get farm fresh eggs this week. So I want to show you what the difference can be. Now, every recipe I use, for the most part, unless I tell you differently, has a large egg in it. That you would buy at the grocery store, it says large eggs on it. All right, so that's a large egg. Well, there is a farm fresh egg. See the difference in size? This one's a whole lot bigger. So that's probably one of the few things, unless you're doing a very specific, like a French pastry or a cookie that requires a very specific and precise egg amount, there is a little leeway with that. But I'm going to tell you, you need 1 egg, 50 grams. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to beat that egg up. We're going to pre-scramble the egg. So the yolk's broke and it looks like we're getting ready to make scrambled eggs. All right, so we got that done. The next thing that's going to go in this, we're not going to stir anything else until we get everything in it. But the next thing we're going to put in there, applesauce. There is 1.5 cups of applesauce, which is 295 grams. Sounds like a lot of applesauce, but it's just 1.5 cups. You know, I usually, well, last time it was really just what was in the bottom of the jar. Now, with that being said, with applesauce, me and Chris were talking earlier, you could really do so much more on this than just applesauce. They make so many different types of fruit sauces. You know, like you can get a pear sauce, you can get a mixed berry sauce, you can get a strawberry and applesauce. That you could easily put that in here instead of just straight applesauce. And then instead of walnuts, you know, you can still use walnuts or pecans, or, you know, you could use a different, you could even put a fruit in there for that matter. Say like you're doing a strawberry sauce, you can get dried strawberries, freeze-dried strawberries, put them in there, and they'll rehydrate as it bakes. But that way you don't even have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be applesauce. It could be, I want to try a pear bread. I think that would be great. All right, so we got 295 grams, 1.25 cup of applesauce. The next thing we're going to throw in here is 1/2 cup or 120 grams of yogurt. All right, so here's another one that you can vary from. Like I said, this recipe has a lot of options. So I'm using 1/2 cup, 120 grams of vanilla yogurt, but you can use plain yogurt. You can use sour cream. You know, this is really a recipe that's designed just for things you might have in your, in your kitchen already. I know most people have eggs, they have applesauce, they at least have sour cream or some sort of yogurt. All the stuff that's in the dry mix is pretty much standard in any kitchen for people who cook at home. Now, if you don't cook at home very often, you eat out a lot, you may not have a whole lot of this stuff, at least some of it, but if you don't, you should. It's kind of like a scale. If you don't have one, you should. All right, so the next thing we need to put in here is the brown sugar. It is a half a cup, 105 grams. It's not, you'll hear people talk about the term packed brown sugar and loose brown sugar. So this is loose brown sugar, and unfortunately it's been sitting out a little bit, so it got a little hard. But that's okay. It'll moisten right back up as soon as we put it in here. As long as it's not rock formation hard, you're okay. So when you pack, the difference between pack and loose brown sugar, of course if you use the grams, it doesn't matter, is when brown sugar is really soft. So if it calls for like a half a cup of packed, you would scoop your measuring cup in your brown sugar, and then you would pack it down real firm. And then you would finish filling it up and do that until you hit whatever measurement it is you need. Loose packed brown sugar is you just simply, like anything else, you just scoop it up in there, level it off, and you're good. But I recommend a scale at 120 grams. That way you don't even have to worry about it. Is it loose, is it packed, is it whatever, it's grams, so it doesn't matter. All right, so we're going to put that in there. Sorry, I'm trying to stack my dishes as I go. I didn't rerun sink water. All right, so we've got 2 more ingredients left to go in the wet, and we're done. Next ingredient, vanilla. 1 teaspoon or 4 grams. So this is another one, you don't have to have it in it. It is an option. Now, if you happen to try the diabetic version that we just created earlier off camera, you would omit the brown sugar. You can keep the vanilla, but if you're going to put the brown sugar in, if you're just going to make this one like we're making now, you don't have to have the vanilla. That's optional. It's strictly for flavor. If you're going to omit the brown sugar, like our happy accident, I would put the vanilla in it for flavor and taste. All right, so the very last ingredient we need in our wet, 1/4 cup of oil. Pour that in, and then we're done with all the wet. Last thing we got left to do is just mix it up. We're going to take our whisk and we're going to mix this up. But yeah, I wanted to share the story about me not putting the brown sugar in there to show you that it's okay to make mistakes and screw things up. I mean, I didn't even get mad about it. I actually found more humor in it than anything else. Because it was kind of a major component, and it was sitting right here on the counter. I don't even think I mentioned it in the video, but that's all right. We got all the ingredients in this time, and that's the important thing. Okay, so you want to get it so it's mixed together, so it looks like that. It's just nice and, blended. Don't have any chunks, lumps, or bumps, so to speak. I mean, which there really shouldn't be, but like that brown sugar was, starting to stiffen up where it had been on the counter since I'd forgotten to put it in there earlier. So, by the way, we went and got our second COVID vaccine shots. It wasn't too bad. It was like the first one. It was actually quicker through the line, although we had to fill out the same information again. So, hopefully, no side effects occur. They didn't the first time, so I don't expect they will this time, but you never know. So anyhow, all right, so very last thing we do before we put it in the pan is just combine the two. So we'll pour that in there, grab our spatula, scrape out all this goodness. Now, I can't tell you to try this batter before you put it in the pan and cook it because it's got eggs in it. And eggs can give you salmonella poisoning eaten raw. But if you happen to get some on your fingers, it's not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. So I guess I've been eating raw cookie dough, cake batter, and bread batter since I was a kid. My mom would yell at me, "Don't eat that, you'll get sick." And I don't recall one time ever getting sick from it. So then we're going to combine these two together. Now, I don't know if you've ever made brownies or not, but what we're wanting to do here is very similar to brownies. So when you're mixing this together, you're not looking to get it super smooth. You're not whipping it into shape and getting all the lumps out. All you're wanting to do with this, honestly, is to get the flour wet. Okay, you want to get all your dry ingredients wet. If you overwork it, sorry, I had to think about where I was headed. If you overwork it, what happens is your bread in the long run will become chewy. I mean, you want it moist, you want it soft, but chewy is not really the outcome you want, especially for dessert bread, which is considered dessert bread. It's like banana bread or the banana gingerbread, which I have a recipe for and I would like to do down the road. And that's one of my favorite breads of all time. All right, so we got it pretty much mixed together. We're going to take our spatula in one final attempt to make sure we got everything mixed up pretty good, got everything wet. Like I said, you don't want it to be super smooth or anything like that. Just like if you're making brownies, you don't want to sit there and hammer on that thing with a whisk or a hand mixer until it's smooth. Then your brownies become not normal chewy. I mean, chewy to some extent is great, but you know that's not something you're looking for in most baking. Is chewy. So we're going to get this all scraped off there, which I don't know why, because I got to use it to scrape it into the pan. All right, we're mixed there. We're going to grab our pan, and we're just going to pour this in here. When you get it poured in, you want to make sure you got it, somewhat even, so it bakes evenly. Oh, did miss a little flour, so get that mixed up real quick. Now, let's say you see like a little spot of flour in there. That's not an issue, because what's going to happen realistically is now that you've exposed it, the batter will slowly get it wet. Yeah, I mean, it's okay to have missed a little bit of flour if you did. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You don't have to. It's not like forgetting the cinnamon in the bread, so to speak. I'm sorry, that was just like the funniest thing ever. I've never not put all the ingredients in, so that's a new one on me, and I find it kind of funny. All right, so we got that in there. We're gonna go even it out. So went to the butcher today, picked up our meat. We'd ordered a package, and I got all kinds of new things for us to play with on Wednesday nights now. All kinds of steaks and sausages and hamburgers and all kinds. The only thing I didn't get was chicken. And I got some of what are probably the best bratwurst ever made by any company everywhere. And they're made by the meat market here locally, the butcher shop here locally. I didn't go out of town to get my meat this time. I'm trying to keep all the local neighborhoods employed, trying to do my part. And so we go to the butcher. And I would go to a smaller grocery shop, but we don't have one there. All right, so we got this in there nice and even, just like such. Remember, we got the parchment paper on the bottom. All right, so let's talk about the oven for a second. Let me get you up here where I can see you. Oh, there you are, looking good if I do say so myself. And of course, I'm talking about me, but you look fantastic too, I promise. All right, so here's where we go now. That's awesome. Here's where we're heading next. So we gotta put it in the oven, 350 degrees, like I said at the beginning. Should already had it preheating by now, right? Absolutely. And we're gonna bake this for 45 to 55 minutes. Now I know in my oven it takes about 50 minutes, but every oven varies. So that being said, I recommend you start checking it at 45 minutes. So I gotta take a drink. And then if it's still bad, you put your toothpick in, all right? That's how you check it. You open up your oven, you pull out your pan, just pull the rack out so it's still sitting on the pan. That way you don't have to even take it off. Stick a toothpick down in it, pull it out. If it still has batter on it, you know it's not quite done. So you can probably take it to 50 at that point. Once you get to 50, you know, I would say put your toothpick in it, and if it still has a little bit of batter on it, start checking it every minute. When it comes to most baked goods, breads are a little more forgiving. Breads and cakes are a little more forgiving, but not by much than cookies. But you want to start literally checking it every minute. Set your timer for 2 minutes, an additional 2 minutes once you hit that mark. And every minute, open up that oven door and check it. And then let it go another minute if it needs to be. Because a minute can make all the difference between a moist and delicious cake or bread or cookie versus a dry and I need a gallon of milk to choke this thing down with cake, bread, or cookie. So that's probably the most important part. What we'll be looking for when we take it out of the oven, not only will it be the toothpick test, but how does the top look? Is the top golden brown? Is it, you know, burnt? Is it, you know, lightly baked? Like this one here, I actually pulled it a little early, but it's still got a pretty decent golden brown texture. Yeah, it didn't. I would like to see it a little darker, really, but not by much. I mean, it's still got a good chunk to it. Like I said, I was really impressed when me and Chris tried it. She was like, "Let's try it and you see how it tastes." You never know, you may like it. And honestly, it wasn't bad. Like I said, it just wasn't as sweet. It would be good if you are a diabetic looking for a potential dessert. You know, I mean, the applesauce has got a little sugar in it, but that's really it. You know, the vanilla, no, vanilla, I don't think, vanilla is just vanilla beans and vodka, so it doesn't have any sugar in it. So you should be good there. Yeah, I mean, other than the sugar in the applesauce, there's not really any sugar in it. And like I said, it tastes pretty good. All right, so anyhow, we're going to stick this in the oven for 45 to 55 minutes, and in my case, it's going to be 50 minutes. At 25 minutes, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to turn it 180 degrees, all right, or front to back. That way, it bakes evenly. There is not an oven out there, very few ovens at any rate. There's always hot and cold spots in an oven, always. But that way, it ensures it bakes evenly on both sides. Because if not, and I can testify to this, even in this oven, and this oven's not even 6-7 months old. You know, one side will be a little darker than the other if I don't turn it. So to get a nice even look, just rotate whatever it is you're baking 180 degrees about halfway through its baking cycle and you'll be fine. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this in the oven, and when I get back, we'll have it pulled out cooling, and we'll take a look at it. All right, I'll see you here in just a moment. All right, guys, so I'm back. We let it bake for its 50 minutes. I did the toothpick test. I took a, hold on, I'll show you what I did. Let me grab a toothpick. Only because I just threw mine away. And grab this. It's still warm. It literally just came out of the oven. Actually, you know what? I'll have to grab a hold of that. That's bad boy's hot. Let me move you down to it, and I'll show you what we did. All right, so right there is our beautiful applesauce bread. As you can see, it's got a nice little golden brown color to it, nice and even. Now on this side it did split, and that's common with breads like this. So you're fine. If yours splits, don't freak out. It's supposed to do that. Well, not even the other one. It split like that. All right, so all you have to do is take your toothpick right here, go to the center, poke it in, pull it out, and see how there's nothing on it? That's good. And it's got that nice golden brown color on the top, which is what you're looking for. So, after it comes out, make sure you put it on a wire rack, just like I have it. You want that air to circulate all around it. Let it sit for about 15 minutes to cool down, maybe 20. And then once that happens, we'll take our offset spatula or our knife, go around the edges, and then take it out of it, and we can try a piece. And I believe that's, yeah, I mean, but it's important you let it cool down, though. Especially in this case, you should let everything cool a little bit. Unlike when we cook and you let it sit because it's a meat and you're letting everything settle back down, this is still actually baking. Now, what would happen if we would have pulled our toothpick out and let's say it had a little bit of crumb on it? Yeah, it had a little bit of bread sticking to it, but not batter. That's okay. Because what happens is, okay, so this bread, even though we pulled it out of the oven, it's still cooking inside. All right, so if there is a little bit of crumb or whatever on here, and it's not batter like goopy, not done yet batter, that's okay because it's still going to cook the next probably 5-10 minutes. It's sitting here on the counter trying to cool down. You know, it's not automatically going to go from 350 degrees down to, in our case, 75 degrees here in the kitchen. It's just going to, it'll slowly go down. As it slowly goes down, it's still cooking on the inside. That inside is going to stay 350 degrees, temperature of 350 degrees a lot longer than the outside even is. So we'll let this cool down for 10-15 minutes, and then when I come back here in just a millisecond for you, we'll take it out of the pan and try a piece. All right, I'll see you here in just a millisecond. All right, we should be good to go now. It's cooled for about 10-15 minutes. We should be all right. Yeah, so I can pick it up without it burning me to death. So look at that, came right out. No problems at all. Ain't that awesome? Gotta love that. Now we're just gonna set it on a piece of fine china here. These are really cool plates. I don't remember exactly where Chris got them at, but they're completely biodegradable and they feel like the Chinette plates. And look at that. Parchment paper came right out. Not a problem at all. So we'll set the pan to the side, throw the parchment paper in the trash. Now this would be good. When we had it last week, I tried it with apple butter on it. I had it with just regular butter on it. If you've got a preserve or a jelly or a jam that you prefer that would go with an apple, hands down awesome. But it's got nice outside crust, and like I said, not gold. It's golden brown. It's not burnt. It's not anything like that. And there's what we look like on the inside, right there. Nice and moist and tender, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. So let me bring you up so I can see you again. I like to see your face. Makes me feel better. Looking somebody eye to eye is always important. And it's almost as important as listening to them when they're looking at you eye to eye. Little extra knowledge there. So, I mean, this turned out, it's got a nice crust on it. Most people don't like the end piece. I kind of do, really. It's nice and moist. And let's see how it tastes. I bet you it tastes like applesauce and cinnamon. Yeah. That's pretty bomb. I'm not gonna lie. You can taste, it tastes just like Mott's applesauce, which is what I use in this particular case. You can use any type of applesauce. If I wasn't out of my homemade applesauce, I'd be using it right now. You can just slightly taste the vanilla, slightly taste the cinnamon. Nothing's real heavy, other than, the flavor of applesauce, but even it blends well with everything else. Like I said, wow, this is really good. It's making my mouth water. It'll stay moist for, at least 3 days. If you don't have anything to put it in, like a container, it can sit on your counter. Put it in like a cake container if you have something that holds pies, cakes, or a Tupperware of sorts. If not, that's okay. Not a problem. There's lots of options. You can wrap it in saran wrap, and it'll sit on your counter for a few days. Say you're making up a few of these for like company next week. You could freeze these, and they'll come out just fine. Just reheat them in the oven, warm them back up that way, or just let them sit on the counter for that matter. Either way it goes, they'll be good. But like I said, it'll hold, at least 3 days, probably 5, and still be just this moist. It doesn't seem to dry out as long as you keep it wrapped or covered. So that's kind of important. It's important that way with most breads. Don't leave it in direct sunlight. Keep the air away from it as much as possible. Those are two key things with bread. So I hope you try this recipe. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So there I go with the so again. Next week, I'm not sure what Tuesday's topic is going to be yet. But I got lots of random things running through my head. I just haven't nailed one down yet to talk about. And then Wednesday night, we're going to do taco meatloaf for dinner. Unless something new and amazing comes up. I'm still searching for some 50s recipes. I saw one last night, and I don't remember the full name of it. I just know it has the name of Lorraine. That's all I remember about it. But I remember it sounded pretty good. It was something Chris looked up or I happened to see online. And then next Thursday, we're going to do blueberry pie. Unless something better comes along, but I really want to make a blueberry pie. So that'll probably be set in stone. And in the same time, in one of those episodes, it'll probably be Tuesday. I'll give you an update on the plants, see how they're going. Talk about maybe some new projects we're gonna do. Next Wednesday during the day, I'm going to get that. Remember the box we built for the herb stand? I'm going to finally finish getting it all together and get it ready for herbs. Right now, the main base for it's pot full of 4-inch pots with jalapeno plants in it. That will be going to the garden also, but you'll get to see all that as we go. So try this recipe. Let me know what you think if you try it. Or let me know if you think it sounds good, because I'm here to tell you, it's amazing. And we'll take it from there. Any comments, questions, concerns, you can always leave me a message here, a comment here. You can message me on Facebook under Brian's Aquatics. You can catch me on Messenger doing the same thing. All right. I love you guys. Tell somebody else you love them and make their day a little better. I guarantee it'll happen. All right. I love you. Talk to you later. Bye.